Oh no, he's talking about Mario Odyssey again. Yes sir, I am taking another opportunity to remind you, as if I'm that one annoying kid in the back of the class, reminding you like I don't every day. Hey guys, did you know that I like this thing that I think is very— Yes! You get it! But I want to talk about the hypothetical I've talked about before. The idea of Super Mario Odyssey getting a sequel. I've talked about stuff I think a sequel could benefit from: expanded capture abilities, world themes and designs, more costumes, story stuff, difficulty scaling, power moon count adjustment, scrapped concept ideas, etc. But I've kept a near consistent track record when it came to predicting and or expecting an announcement of some sort of Odyssey sequel. Around 2019, I figured 2020 was when such a teaser would take place. Did not happen. And then I predicted again early 2021, and then again before that year's E3 in June, and then again for the September Direct later that year. None of them happened. I didn't predict Odyssey 2 last Direct, the one in February, so you can give me a little bit of credit with the restraint there, but 4.5 years since the initial release, made many predictions, and was expecting a sequel at several points to which it just never happened. Now, I want to be clear and say I'm not pissy because of predictions I made not coming to pass. There have been a ton of things. So much I've been wrong about gaming and non-gaming related stuff in the past. The entire title and topic for this video could very well not come to pass, and it wouldn't be much skin off my back, if at all, if that were the case. Not to mention, besides Galaxy 2 and 3D World, most mainline titles don't necessarily get direct sequels. There are sequels in the series and continuations of the formula, like 64 and Sunshine continued the 3D Mario formula, onward through Galaxy, Galaxy 2, 3D Land, etc. That's like the base definition of a sequel. But I mean the only direct sequels, the kinds of sequels that fully try to expand and branch off the previous installment and say, hey, this new game in the series is directly based off the previous entry and we're just going to expand on it and add more to it in almost every single way, if that makes any sense, was Galaxy 2 from Galaxy 1. Same for 3D World from 3D Land. Odyssey returned to the sandbox format 64 and Sunshine established, but I'm talking just another continuation of Odyssey's entire anatomy for a direct sequel. And even with it being this long and nothing's come for a potential sequel, it's hard for me to give up on the idea or really say it's never going to happen. Not a hard matter of letting go. I mean, you guys know how much I like the first 3 Paper Mario games, for example, but once Origami King was revealed for the first time, any chance or belief the original formula and gameplay structure I personally had is legit gone for the series, minus indies like Bug Fables continuing and expanding on that foundation. I love Odyssey, yes, but me holding on to the idea of a sequel, I greatly doubt is a matter of rose-tinted attachment, blinding logic and reasoning, which is why I'm re-cementing my personal idea until it either gets validated at some point or completely crushed and or not acknowledged at all, that a Super Mario Odyssey sequel, to me, is just a matter of time. An inevitability we're going to reach at some point in the near future. And it's weird with this idea, because Nintendo hasn't alluded any sort of indication or proof they could be doing another Odyssey game at all. But there's just way too much reason, from what I could see anyways, to just omit that possibility altogether, you know what I mean? Like in the video where I went off talking about stuff I want for a sequel, I mentioned how Odyssey was brimming with so many ideas and creativity, akin to how creative and bursting with ideas and themes Galaxy had, to which Galaxy got a direct sequel. Zelda Breath of the Wild was the exact same deal. Both sequels came about because of how many ideas the developers had, and the directors and heads behind both projects settled on just expanding them further in a new game. Zelda Breath of the Wild getting a sequel later this year, Galaxy 2 after Galaxy 1, Zelda Majora's Mask after Ocarina of Time, Mario plus Rabbids, etc. Even from just concept ideas alone, forget post-launch ideas and improvisions, and many ideas for worlds, world themes, bosses, captures, costumes, etc. Again, just that original sequel speculation video, there's just so much you can do with a Mario Odyssey sequel. There's also the obvious fact Odyssey's the best sold 3D Mario, amongst the top 10 best-selling games on the Switch, and has been for quite some time since it launched. Like, it has faults, flaws, and garnered valid criticism in some areas for sure, but it is a very popular Mario and Switch title still. One of the most successful and popular out of a majority of Mario games in the grand scheme. They just make sequels to very popular and successful titles all the time. Most Mario games do. Zelda, Pokemon, Kirby, etc. That's at least the base logic to why they would want to make a sequel, right? Speaking of sequels, look at how many sequels we're getting this year, especially how many of them are sequels to 2017 games. Again, Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, slated for this year, sequel to the absolute biggest Zelda game of all time, and a staple flagship title for the Switch itself. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, sequel to the second game in the series that also came out in 2017 and was the biggest, most successful game for the Xenoblade series, coming this September. Splatoon 3, direct sequel from the second game that came out in 2017 as well, with this third one releasing this summer of 2022. Fire Emblem Warriors, another 2017 game that's getting a sequel / continuation with Warriors 3 Hopes, taking a spin on the Three Houses world and characters. Mario plus Rabbids is even getting a sequel, this weird and wild crossover that came out August of 2017. Sold incredibly well, very beloved and acclaimed, is slated for this summer, but a 2017 sequel nonetheless. And while not a sequel altogether, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a 2017 release / port, is getting expanded content and double the number of tracks over this and next year. A game that was also very well received and has always been a bestseller for the system. Even non-2017 titles like Pokemon Legends Arceus, redefining the Pokemon formula, and also Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming later this year. Kirby and the Forgotten Land just came out and is this ambitious leap for Kirby as a series. Bayonetta 3, Mario Strikers Battle League. Like, there's an insane number of sequels coming this year for Nintendo alone, and a ton of them being sequels to 2017 titles. Three things a lot of those titles share when comparing to their upcoming sequels is how amazing they all sold for their respective series, how much people adored and loved those games, and how creative and ambitious most of them were for their series that the sequels are trying to market and show off. Besides ARMS, which I do hope also gets a sequel at some point and expands on the ARMS gameplay, characters, and world, the only major title that came out of 2017 that really defined that year for Nintendo and gaming as a whole that wasn't Breath of the Wild, that isn't getting a sequel as far as we know anyways, was Super Mario Odyssey. Non-Nintendo games like Persona 5, Cuphead, Horizon Zero Dawn, Sonic Mania, etc., and others also defined and made that year for millions of people, but at least between Zelda, Persona, and Horizon, Mario was the only other major 2017 title, and that's the only other big Switch title that's yet to get a follow-up and would benefit a ton from a sequel game, like all the other 2017 games are getting. People are also dubbing 2022 as the sequel to 2017 because of all this too. And while I question if an Odyssey sequel would come in 2022, if all those other series push their franchises forward with those games, and soon in the future again with these sequels, were extremely successful and popular a couple of years ago to warrant them getting sequels, and have plenty more ideas and ways to flesh out, polish, and perfect whatever gameplay, mechanics, style, formula, and genre they make up, there's little reason to think an Odyssey 2 wouldn't do the exact same when Super Mario Odyssey is in the exact same boat. There's also the wonder / worry some have that it might not even be a sequel, like Mario Kart 9 was clamored for a bit last fall, winter, and early this year. But then Nintendo just announced they're going to do DLC and add more tracks to Mario Kart 8. Even though we're 5 years into this system and almost 5 years in from 8 Deluxe releasing on the Switch, they could do the same for Mario Odyssey and release DLC out of the blue, which is entirely possible too. But with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Kart as a series, 8 Deluxe did not stop pushing the thing. Since April of 2017, 8 Deluxe has always, even with some fans getting sick of 8, tired of it, it never stopped pumping out Switches to people's homes. It's always been the system's best seller, still is, will now sell even more Switches and copies of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and is also a multiplayer game. Mario Kart as a series usually does everything I just described 8 Deluxe doing, but 8 Deluxe is doing it by a much wider margin than any other Mario Kart, and if you consider, well, why make a new Mario Kart when we already have one on the system, when it's selling this much for this long of a period of time, and when it already has this much content compared to any other Mario Kart before, it makes more sense dropping DLC for a game like that 5 years later. Because even when Mario Kart's in that position, they didn't opt to do that for Zelda, for Splatoon, Mario plus Rabbids, Fire Emblem Warriors, Xenoblade, etc. For all these and many other past titles, multiplayer and especially single-player ones, with all these crazy ideas and mechanics to where they could just shove so much more and expand them in a sequel installment with a lot more ideas on deck. so it's tough for me to think it's any different with Odyssey. And another thing that makes it weird is some also think it's too late for a sequel, too late from the angle that some think we're approaching the end of the Switch, like they're gonna wrap up this console soon and announce Switch 2 in the near future. This is a point I talked about in a very recent video where I talked about the potential of Mario Baseball coming back. This video is what I was referring to where I was bringing this up again. I really doubt Nintendo's abandoning the Switch very soon. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, their consistent bestseller that's sold astronomically better than any Mario Kart, is getting more content for effectively 2 years on a platform that currently has a larger consumer base than the Wii did. The president of Nintendo also mentioned last fall we're only halfway through the Switch's life, and they've planned for the system for several years now to last longer than your average console lifespan. And the 3DS was a system that sold and performed very well and got support for 6 years before the Switch, but even after the Switch launched, still got extra support for another 2 years. So even when there is valid and strong arguments that most of the necessary first parties, Zelda's, almost any Mario series, Pokemon, Kirby, Metroid, Splatoon, Animal Crossing, Smash Brothers, etc. are on the system, if we're only now just passing the halfway mark, and we're getting so many titles and more content for the thing for at least 2 more years, there's still some titles that don't have concrete release dates at all, like Metroid Prime 4, probably plenty more titles we don't know of at all, and still plenty more ideas for games, either for more sequels, whether recent and older series, and other IPs and franchises Nintendo could provide a spotlight for on Switch. I have sincere doubts Nintendo's gonna drop the Switch after 2023. The end of 2024 to 2025, maybe around then if you want, in my opinion, maybe longer if they really do maintain this momentum. But I do not think it's a matter of Nintendo running out of time for Switch support when they have a lot more than some say, and when the Switch just won't stop selling so much and selling so many games and is still releasing so many new games. Putting all of this in mind, it's just really hard for me to wrap my head around the claim it's too late for Mario Odyssey 2, or they're not doing it at all given all of this. Nintendo could very well consider Bowser's Fury their most recent and new 3D Mario. That I find trickier to pinpoint and say with full confidence, given how they kind of treated it as the smaller thing and attached it to a Wii U port of a 3D Mario that was their big 3D Mario last console. Proof of concept, I can imagine, but it's tough to say. That, and take most of what I say regarding Bowser's Fury with a grain of salt, because I hardly touched Bowser's Fury. Played it for like 15 to 20 minutes at a friend's house. I've been wanting to get around to it for quite some time. I'm aware of how much people loved it and how interesting and potentially emblematic it could be for the 3D Mario formula. But between how Nintendo treated Bowser's Fury leading up to launch, how it's been over a year since that came out, and it was a smaller project compared to a full-blown 3D Mario game, I have some doubts that was the whole new 3D Mario, and maybe Nintendo might do an entirely new 3D Mario project altogether. Not Odyssey 2, maybe Galaxy 3, or Sunshine 2, or just a whole different 3D Mario adventure that we might not even anticipate. That could very well happen, and any instance of these is still incredibly exciting to me and worthwhile all the same. Maybe that rumor of a new DK game being 3D and being developed by the Odyssey team is what's actually happening instead, and I'm just wasting air over here over what'll end up a completely different reality. Maybe they'll split developers and ideas between both a DK game and an Odyssey 2. Maybe either or are being made by different studios altogether, or at the same time under much bigger teams, or one massive team. No one knows. It's too many unknowns to really say for certain, but it just makes way too much sense for Nintendo to make a sequel to Mario Odyssey, factoring everything I've said up to now. I think at this point the only question is, if it is a matter of time, then when? And as cheap as it is for me to say, it's true, we just don't know. It's up to Nintendo to really say if they are set on an Odyssey sequel, or some new 3D Mario, whatever form it'll take. Just from a fan's perspective, and given how many games are coming out this year, I can 100% envision they announce an Odyssey sequel this year, probably E3, but they're still developing it, and announce it's slated to release for 2023, which also helps spread out away from the massive mosh pit of titles coming this year in 2022. That's the reality that makes the most sense in my head. They basically announce a supposed sequel, like how they announced Breath of the Wild 2, with something like the sequel to Super Mario Odyssey is now in development, or something like that, and release that game later down the line given they have that much more time and space to keep pushing both the series and the system and keep people excited and anticipated for a longer period of time. Again, there are multiple ways and angles about this that could make my assessment wrong and make this video age super horribly for sure, but beyond all the reasons and logic to why I still feel like we're going to get an Odyssey sequel at some point in the future, it's a bit of a gut feeling too. You guys know I'm stubborn, but it's so hard for me to think Odyssey 2 isn't happening, or at the very least some new major 3D Mario adventure isn't coming in the next 2-ish years or so. They're always hard at work thinking of, making, and developing the next big 3D Mario adventure. That much at least most of us can agree on, with all these factors and reasons in mind, and more reasons and explanations I've made up in the past. That and like, oh man, I would love a sequel to Odyssey. I would kill for a sequel. Love that game. We might look back at this video and laugh for how far off the mark I could be, like I have been multiple times. Maybe we could look back on this video and say, hot damn, he was on the mark and was accurate by this much, or whatever. It really all is, from both perspectives, a matter of time to really say and see what the outcome is. But I do have faith it'll come to pass, that eventual Mario Odyssey expansion and continuation of the formula and ideas and mechanics that game gave us. Let me know in the comments if you echo any of my sentiments or think it's unlikely for some reason, feel they might take a different approach or game altogether, or if you think I'm just being weirdly delusional or whatever. Thank you for your time, and thank you for watching this video, and I do have plenty of ideas for more Mario content in the pipeline, especially Odyssey related content that I think a lot of you might like and anticipate more than you think. Stay super.
Yo, hey, 妹妹，嘿，我来呀，共和大哈哈呀，拉面，嘿，来面，来个面，共和再见呀，哈哈，拉面，下手面，谢谢。